Do you ever wonder how successful entrepreneurs built their businesses from scratch? Are you unsure if starting a business is for you? Well, tune in as we discuss how successful entrepreneurs transformed their ideas into reality. Welcome back to From Zero to Revenue with your host, Chris Yap.
Welcome back. You are listening to the podcast show From Zero to Revenue, the show that features the journey of successful entrepreneurs from around the world. I'm your host, Chris Yap. Today, we will discuss how to effectively grow your business by having the right talents and the right human resources. Learn the art and science of human resource management. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Gaptech Global, your outsourcing partner for LinkedIn marketing, virtual assistants, and various back office services. You can learn more about their services at www.gaptechglobal.com. I am extremely excited to introduce our guest today, a very passionate HR practitioner, a global talent leader, my long-term client, the senior partner and managing director of HR&Co, Ticki Favaroth. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me. I am so excited that the day finally arrived.
Yes.
I know we had this planned last month, and then I had a client emergency. And so, as in life, our clients come first. But I'm so excited to be back to you right before the end of the year
Right.
to just spend some time catching up.
No, absolutely, and that's totally fine. Obviously, you're right. Our clients are priority. I'm just really happy to have you here, and I'm super excited for this episode because your world is basically the foundation of any business, right? And I'll let you talk more about it. But tell us a little bit about your background, Tiki, and tell us a little bit what HR&Co is about.
Yes. So first of all, thank you for having me here. And, anything that I can share to pay it forward in my experiences in general, I most definitely want to do that. And that's the whole purpose. So a
Right.
little bit about me. I am a 20-year HR practitioner. And so when I originally, started my career evolution, if you call it that, I was actually going to be a petroleum engineer.
Wow.
And I had the great opportunity to be recruited to the world of HR by a little company that people may or may not know called Target Corporation. And my first role was actually leading the people function inside of a Target store. And they taught me through that program how to effectively run operations, run people, and really focus on our revenue. And that was the genesis of how I've come to think about people in business overall. Fast forward to being a senior partner at HR&Co. We kind of thrive on supporting our clients, and we support clients in the commercial space, small, medium, and large market, as well as the government space with anything related to people. And so we're a full service HR consulting firm where we help with strategy. So maybe we need to partner with owners and leaders to think about what they want to do. We also act as subject matter experts. So maybe we come in and help their teams to work on a specific item and to execute against that. Or sometimes we come in as staff augmentation as fractional CHRO or manager. So net, that means is that we meet our clients where they are and for what they need. And we bring 20 plus years of expertise amongst our practitioners and our team to be able to solve their biggest people challenge. And that's what we want to do and to help them accelerate their goals. So all the way from from an engineer to, this. And so you've probably seen my tag that I'm the people engineer, that I
Yes.
bring the art and the science because
Mhm.
I do believe in facts and data and insights to help our clients achieve what they're trying to accomplish. So that's a little bit about the story. And listen, it has been a journey. It has been interesting. I take pride in helping people,
Right.
whether it's what I'm influencing behind closed doors or what I'm doing on a day to day, kind of interpersonal opportunity. And that is my life's blood and where my destiny and my purpose and the thing that gets me up every morning with my team and others in the organizations that we support.
I love that story, and again, you can sense the passion behind your story there. I guess before we dive more into what HR&Co really do and what problems they solve, or you guys solve, tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur, because obviously you came from this big, we call it small, big corporations. You were a global leader at
Yeah,
the public listed company, 50,000 plus
yeah,
employees.
yeah.
How was the transition like, from being the corporate leader to now, an entrepreneur owning your own business? How was the journey like?
Listen, I will tell you, for every organization I've worked for, when I made the decision to serve corporate, that's what I call her, and I call
Mhm.
her she in a different way. I
Right.
said, listen, they've prepared me.
Hmm.
Everything from Target to the organization I left, which was a light, to support leaders in a different way. And so I made it was intentional. There were some factors that, led me to that decision. And really, I think the biggest thing about my journey was having this mindset shift around the fact that I wanted to take everything in the toolbox
Hmm.
and figure out a way where I could accelerate and become a multiplier in multiple spaces. I recognized in corporate, or I call it big box, is that, one customer, one voice, one direction, and there wasn't the opportunity to quickly expand and multiply, as well as learn and accelerate. If I'm dealing with a healthcare client versus a technology client, what are the insights I can develop so much faster to do that? So I think the journey started, and if I had to put it in steps, step number one is deciding that corporate, while she had been really good and trained and developed me, and I write about this in a book, that it was really time for me to I call it the PhD of business. I had been in corporate for 20 years and now wanted to get this graduate degree to say that I could actually do this in collaboration with the team. And I'm going to stop using that we could do this in collaboration with the team because there are so many practitioners that have been a part of the journey to help us do that. Secondly, was saying, what did I want to go to market? Like, what services did I want to provide or we wanted to provide as we were facing off with clients in the commercial space or the government? And then ultimately, how do we deliver that? And so we came up with dedicated team, people focused. We are an extension of our clients and what they do. We are either on the front lines where people see us, or we are the invisible engines in the back where nobody knows that we're making it happen and just doing whatever needs to be done to ultimately help them be successful. At the end of the day, my number one goal, and I think the team will agree, is that we wanted to support HR practitioners to show up and be their best. Oftentimes, they're overlooked in what they do to deliver value. And so we wanted to be their secret weapon to go to the CEOs, CFOs, whoever, and says, we got you. We have something that will solve your business challenge and we can do it super quick. So I think that was the journey. Obviously, getting the business name and figuring out if you want to
Yeah.
be an LLC or an S corp, and
Right.
how do you want to do your payroll and your taxes, which is just the housekeeping. And that was a journey in itself. Going to get my certification to do work with the government and your cage code and all of that. But at the end of the day, those are just the housekeeping things that we need to do to step into greatness.
Hmm.
And the biggest opportunity was working with the team that says, who do we want to be when we grow up? And that journey will be different because we leave big box where we've been protected and all of that to say now we're out here on a parachute, just kind of flying. So
It's a totally different world. Obviously,
yes,
I was in the same situation with you. You mentioned the critical term protected, because
yes,
you can expect a paycheck every 15 days, right? Now it's different. You're the ones who's worrying about paying that paycheck to all your employees, and then there's a lot of, like, in other words, we stay up late more at night as a business owner. But Tiki, growing up, this exactly what you envisioned, having your own company, leading a team and being able to be a catapult of change for the people who work with under your team?
I think in my mind, like I said, even the journey from petroleum engineer to here, wanting to do that, I always knew from a destiny perspective is that I wanted to sow into people and to help people be successful. And when I found HR early in my career, I was like, holy camole, I can run the business and still do HR stuff and still be a data scientist. It was like the perfect storm. And so I
Right.
appreciate Target Corporation for having their accelerator.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times it's been like, how do you get the business? I'm like, because I grew up learning that, people strategies support business strategies, and it's the three-legged, and then you have your finance, your ops, whatever. So I think I've known that I've always wanted to be an accelerator. I've been a mentor, a coach. I do it, so into people to help them find who they are ultimately. And I don't think that's going to change as a part of what I've been asked to do as far as my purpose here on my time on earth.
And what was your? I know it was your uh, experience at Target that kind of made you realize that you enjoy that people management or human
Yeah.
resource management. But what was your aha moment that made you decide I want to have my own company and make a difference in enterprises and government? What was that aha
Um,
moment, if you could
I
recall?
would say it was a combination of successes
Okay.
and barriers.
Hmm.
And successes in the sense that I was able to personally grow my career and had mentors and coaches and advocates and supporters. But it was also barriers that there was always a glass ceiling.
Right.
Would it be from the fact that, and I don't know if it was, gender or ethnicity, my
Hmm.
personality style, my desire to go faster when some want to go slower. So I think it's a combination of the fact that I had great successes and I loved winning and accelerating and growing, but at the same time, knowing that someone else was in control and I didn't understand why I could not reach the highest level or why, there may have been perceptions or limits to the impact that I wanted to have. And so I just said, one door closes, another one opens. And so
Right.
sometimes we have to create the lane and space, but we have the freedom and flexibility. And just to say it, being an owner does not come with limits because now we still have to work with customers to trust us to do it. And we're not a big box brand and my team laughs all the time, like we're getting there, but so it's starting from, ground zero and then working ourselves back up. So I think that's what made me say, you know what, maybe it's time to create my own lane and space where I could do this and fly or fail, kind of sort of.
You know what's interesting? You're saying this is I'm sure our listeners, among our listeners, they can relate to exactly what you said.
Yeah,
Where because I was in that situation as
yeah,
well, where I was working in an corporation, and I felt like I had a ceiling,
yeah,
and so the only way to kind of get out of that and break the barrier was to set up my own, where you are in full control. And with what's happening right now, I feel like there's a lot of our listeners who can actually relate to that.
yep,
uh, is it scary? Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
It's like I saw this article. It says entrepreneurs are like people who would, jump off a cliff, and in the process, that's the only time they built the parachute. Uh, that is so true in so many, not just in general, but in many circumstances as well. But that makes us creators. That's why I always thought that entrepreneurs they're not just innovators but creators, whether it's a solution or whatnot. But I love this story. So
yeah,
obviously you had this vision. You transformed an idea into revenue, and
mhm,
that's why I title of my show is From Zero to Revenue, and
yeah,
yours is like a perfect example of it.
yeah,
um, Tiki, you have this one liner. It says, awakening leaders and enabling talent is what HR&Co is
mhm,
about. I find it very profound. Can you elaborate? what was in your mind when you came up with that statement?
Yeah, so one of the things that in our space is that we know that leadership is so important to driving business results, stakeholder equity, leading teams, getting the stuff done. And so sometimes, just because someone has a leader title, we have to help them awaken to be their best leader.
Right.
Some of the greatest CEOs that I've supported, and I've just seen the evolution, there's this statement around how many people do you want in line behind you? And helping leaders find their legacy, because when they find what they want to be known for, then they can step into how they will be, how they will purpose and act and engage with people. When we think about leaders awakening them, then we can enable talents. And so people can come to work and be their authentic self within the confines of the culture, bring their best ideas, give their best insights and be all in. And so when you have great leaders, they activate and multiply. And there's a book called The Multiplier. They multiply people to be their best. And when you multiply people, obviously it leads to bottom line revenue growth or innovation or whatever your company is doing. And so that's what we want to do. We want to give leaders, and we use that word as big L, any resource, tool, coaching, honest feedback, whatever it is, so that they can awaken their organizations and all the people, because that's our biggest thing. You're feeding families, you're supporting whole communities, and you're creating confident people who will go back in the world and do other things in their community. And so we hope in the short or long time, we work with clients that that's our sole mission to be able to do that.
That is just so amazing. It reminds me of the book From Good to Great.
Yes. Yes.
And I could just imagine that the basic formula for those companies who were able to transform, their organization from good to great was exactly what you said. And it does make sense, because, other than keeping clients happy, it's finding that formula to make sure that we optimize our people. With Captain, we've got over 30 people now. We've
Mhm.
grown pretty quick this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's the thing that keeps me up at night is that, okay, how do you really enable them? And then aside from that, you have to identify who has the potential leaders and make sure you develop them and challenge them. But from your standpoint of awakening the leaders, and I think a critical thing you said there was you really have to find out and be sure and be clear on how do you want to be remembered, your legacy. And I think that's a great catapult right there that I didn't really realize, but the way you said it, man, that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
it's
all about
it's
legacy. I
awesome.
mean, what's the footprint you want to leave in the world? And whether it's in your community, your philanthropic, whether it's business, even, every CEO that I've supported a leader, the one conversation says, when you leave, what will people remember you by? And you have to have a balance. It can't be all finance. It can't be all operations. It can't be all people. And so, how do we help you craft your journey and so that people can remember that you were a great leader, that in the time that you were leading, you guys were generating revenue, your operation was running efficient, and that they saw more diversity, high performers, or whatever the case may be in your organization to have that balance overall.
And when you said about awakening leaders and enabling talent,
Mhm.
is there actually like a formula to get that done? I mean, what's your approach as far as, because it's that statement alone for me, it's actually a formula, right?
Yeah,
But is there, I don't know, is there like specific steps that
that's the secret sauce. That's why you got to call us so we can tell y'all about it. We the secret sauce.
there you go. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So there is that formula, there
Yes.
is that secret sauce, and obviously that's the value of Tiki, of you, and the HR&Co. So guys, if you want to learn that secret sauce, you gotta contact Tiki here, and we will get a chance to kind of give her contact information or whatnot. But it, it, what I find it amazing is that. you work with both private companies and government entities as well. Tell us a little bit more of what kind of problems you solve for this kind of organization.
Wow, you've asked for a lot in that statement.
Yeah.
What type of problems do we solve?
Mhm.
Okay, so if I take the last 6 months to a year, so there thematically, and I'll say this in general.
Mhm.
Number one, a lot of organizations are looking at how to transform and optimize their companies. Obviously, COVID has been an accelerator of how do we do things different, quicker, faster, more agile. And so, with that, we've been helping our clients transform their organizations. Everything from what's the culture, what's the org structure, what's the new jobs, how do we recruit, how do we create this engaging workforce. So that's been one thematic thing, a lot of transformation, talent acquisition transformation. How do we go to market and recruit, hire talent? And if you're in industry, these are not new things. It's just thinking through how do we do it different? How do we unlock and awaken the potential of something different and something great given the current set of conditions today and the next 5 years? The second kind of thematic thing is that we've seen a lot of companies focus on inclusion and diversity,
Right.
and it's been beyond the checkbox activities. So we have been partnering with boards, CEOs, leaders, talking about it, training about it, building their own internal boards or business network groups or getting leaders involved, helping them understand racism and unconscious bias and all of these things that are could erode the bottom line because the social economic environment is coming into the corporate or the workplace environment, and how do they balance what they're hearing around what's happening in the world with the people who show up at work, and how do we support them. And we've done a tremendous amount of work and training and conversations and listening sessions and really having honest conversations with CEOs and boards and say, look, right now we're in a real society, and anything that you do in less than 2 seconds your company can change because we are in the public court of opinion. So no longer do we need to go to compliance and HR and techno, whoever legal. People are holding organizations more accountable in today's time like we've never seen before.
Right.
And so, how do you shift your culture and awaken your leaders to be more conscious so that you don't find yourself at a dinner having a conversation over wine and saying things that could put your organization in jeopardy? So, that's been the second kind of big umbrella. The third thing we've been helping organizations with is that they want to talk a little bit more about how do they award talent through performance. So, what are your goals? What is your performance review? How do we measure that? How do we pay you? How do we recognize the work that you're doing? And then just all of the hygienic thing around, the work that we do in partnership with Predictive Index, how to optimize the work we're doing with Employee Central around how to create a confidential place for people to speak up and share when there's risk in the organization. So it's everywhere. And the biggest thing is that we do is we ask our clients what they want, and then we consult to that need, but also give them a roadmap for how do they sustain it over time. So hopefully that just gives you a little insight into some of the conversations we're having in the private rooms around. Bottom line on top is how do we enable our talent and awaken our leaders to take our organization to the next level in either this particular area or more broadly, how can we transform overall?
Well, the issues or those problems you mentioned that you solve, those problems have definitely, as far as its volume, accelerated just this year alone. I think
Yes.
um, it's good for your business. Is it good for the society? I think it is because it again awakened people too. It kind of exposed problems that were not discussed.
Mhm.
And as you can see how you are just looking into our country, America, with so much division,
Mhm.
hate, and we're still going through the pandemic. obviously you have the power to influence, the culture operation within these organizations that you consult with.
Listen, look, I think, today's time, it's the perfect storm. It's the 100-year storm.
Hmm.
I think, in my opinion, it has caused everyone to stop and reevaluate.
Right.
Whether it's me as a person, the pandemic has stopped me to take stock and what's important to me and the community I live in and my family. Social injustice has caused people to stop and say, you know what, did I have these point of views? Even as a Black woman, it made me stop and says, how do I talk about it?
Hmm.
And even though in our culture, we have a lot of closed door conversations or what we call water cooler. CEOs were asking me, my honest opinion. And really, when I spoke, I had to think about the upstream or downstream implication. So it even caused me to stop to think about my own biases,
Hmm.
believe it or not, and
Yeah.
said I'm underrepresented and whoa, it's me. To
Hmm.
say now I'm in a position that my words can either open a door or close a door.
Hmm.
And then how do I share in a way that it's okay if you're not where I'm at today. But what I need to understand is that you're willing to learn, to listen, to do,
Hmm.
and to meet leaders and organizations where they were. Okay, you picked up the phone and you called me. Great. That's a start.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
blessed be the start. And so I think this perfect storm has caused every person, if you are on planet Earth, to pause to say, what is my legacy? What's really important?
Hmm.
And what do I want to be known for? And we have to all understand that we will not all agree on every perspective. But if there is something that we can find that's common, that we have to start from that perspective and potentially work forward if there's the lane and space to do that.
I love it. Um, I personally just had that realization this year as
Mm,
well. I've had family members who were affected by the pandemic.
yeah.
I did lose a friend in the
Oh, wow. So
Philippines
sorry.
who was a physician addressing, taking care of COVID patients, and it just a week she passed away. So these are absolutely different times.
Yeah.
I've got a teenager here, who always want to be out,
Yeah.
but you have to kind of limit
Mhm.
that, and there's a lot of dramas behind that you have to deal with as parents. It's just I think you're right. It's just stopping and pausing and
Uh-huh.
just contemplating. In fact, this year it prompted me to actually meditate. So every day
Mm,
I just meditate just to kind of, before I start my day, I spend 10 minutes, just meditate and be grateful, I think, at the same time,
mhm.
with obviously the challenges we have around. I think this year kind of really prompted me to really count our blessings,
Mhm.
and I think we take that for granted. To your point, again, going back, it's just amazing how much influence you actually have, with this companies that you work with,
Yep.
and it's
On our good days. On our good days.
what's that,
I
Tiki?
said on our good days, we have influence. On our bad days, it's like, what just happened? And so it's a balance between.
Right. Well, it's I guess that's the part of business, and the sales process and convincing people. You will
Mhm.
always get as it's always setbacks.
Yeah.
um but Tiki, in your 20 plus years of
Mhm.
experience as an HR professional,
Mhm.
and I go again, you have this secret sauce, but I'm sure there are business leaders and HR practitioners who are listening right now.
Yeah.
What are the major principles or learnings or wisdom that you're comfortable to actually share that you've learned over these years?
Yeah. So I would just say four. And I'll keep it to four. Most people who know me, I talk in threes, but I'll talk in four.
Mhm.
So number one, I think that every business owner or leader has to stop and do a self-assessment.
I agree.
Where were you? Where are you? And where are you going? And that could be personal, that's your business strategy, it's whatever. You have to face the facts. The second thing I would say in success is, what do you want to do?
Mm.
What does success look like for you? Because no one can help you support that path or chart that path or to achieve it if we don't have a vision of what that really is. The third thing I would tell people, and this is one of the favorite statements that a leader that I've supported, is control the things that you can, and the things that you can't, you got to let it go. And
That's
he
true.
said it a different way, but take care of the things that you can, and then the rest let it go. And then the final thing I would say is execute. There is nothing like a plan that's not executed because you can't go anywhere. So, where are you? Do a self assessment and face the facts. Have a vision, make it plain. I want $1 million at the end of this year. Okay. That means I need to save 250,000 a quarter or whatever your strategy is. I need some cash. I need some investments. I need some accelerators. What are the tactics that are going to help you get there? And guess what? COVID hit. So now we have to mitigate that plan, but you know you had a plan. Do you reassess the target or do you keep accelerating? You look at different vehicles. It's an ongoing, opportunity. And when we've worked with leaders who again were willing to assess, to create a vision, control the things that they could and execute, we have 10 out of 10 seeing success. It does not mean that stuff doesn't happen, but when you have a plan, like, COVID hit, all right, that changes us being in innovation growth mode. Now we need to stabilize and do this. Let's switch the tasks. But because you're always assessing that plan, companies that have survived during this period, and I'm just not talking about the big giants, big box, but just medium, they've been able to pivot. I was on a call with a CEO of a company and they did food refrigeration. I'll use an example. And COVID hit. Nobody was buying frozen food. So they shifted their business to be a morgue. Wasn't what they wanted to do, and it probably wasn't their business, but with all of the demand, they
Right.
had the equipment, the product, whatever. And so they shifted to help in a different way.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would say the formula. The rest is just how we show up and present ourselves every day. How do we get to that legacy? You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have days that you win, days that you lose or fail or have opportunities. But if you can reset from that point and say, okay, where are we today? All right, this is what I need to do. We have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of leaders pivot and shift, and their businesses survive and thrive as a part of it.
I love it. Uh, you know, I want to, spend the time to really absorb what you said.
Yep.
I'm taking down notes, and this is recorded, fortunately. But that is amazing. I think your advice goes not just for business leaders and HR practitioners. I think that advice goes for everyone.
Yes.
It really is for everyone. Doing stopping and doing a self assessment.
Hmm.
What do you really want to do?
Hmm.
Whether you're a teacher, a
Hmm.
businessman, or whatever your profession may be, it's at the end of the day, how do you want to be remembered as well?
Yeah.
You spoke about legacy, and
Hmm.
I'm very big with that. I mean,
Hmm.
that's why I do what I do.
Yes.
I want to influence and be a catapult of significant change for people, just as you
Listen,
are.
you're already doing that. Whether the work that you're doing with Gab Tech, whether the being paying it forward and being a multiplier hosting this show, like, you're doing that. And somewhere, in this game called life, somebody's taking nuggets. And so listen, whether you're in business, whether you're, like you said, a teacher, a stay-at-home mom, dad, whatever, the playbook of life to success, and no matter what, I have hundreds of books, famous author that you've
Mhm.
read or successful, Warren Buffett to Bill Gates. Where are you? Make a good plan, Focus on that plan, which is the things that you can control and execute. And I mean, no, dare to dream. I've read them insight to, no matter what it is, it's a bottom line on top. Like those are the secrets. And then how you get there and what you need to do as far as the effort is how fast you can accelerate and actually achieve that.
Yeah, 100%. So, Tiki, we're going at the end of our
Sure.
episode today here, but I
Yeah.
just have one last question for you. First of all, your passion is just incredible. I can
Thank
feel
you.
it through my bones, and it's just it's amazing. It's contagious. Um,
Thank you.
but what I was going to ask you is, what advice do you have for our listeners who's thinking of setting up their own business, but maybe kind of not sure? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So, what advice I have someone who's interested in taking a bet on them?
Hmm.
Okay. I'm going to start by saying take what you need, leave what you don't, because everybody got advice and opinions. And so this is
Right.
mine. Number one, I would say, what's your why?
Hmm.
If your why is money, forget it, scrap it, because it takes a time to even figure out the right profit first formula to figure that out.
Mhm.
But your why should be around what is the problem that you're going to solve.
Mm.
And even if you're taking something that exists today and refabbing it, what's your why? I think that's number one. Number two is make sure you have your personal business in order. When I decided to launch, I debt eliminated. I had cash reserves if I could. I understood what my personal obligations were, so I wouldn't put my family in jeopardy or say I got to mortgage the house or whatever. I
Mhm.
made a decision if I was going to go to funding or not go funding, and so I created a realistic plan of where I was and where I wanted to go and how I was going to do that. The third, keep it simple. You will not learn everything in your first year business. My first year business, I did executive coaching. My second year business, I did this. I learned I didn't want to do that. And I changed it to this. And I didn't know all the answers about the government and how to get certified and how to build women owned business. You can wear yourself out with all of the ABCs of alphabet soup of running a business. Keep it simple. Get my entity, get a business name, get products, try to sell it, try to learn from it, get my payroll system. What I'm saying? Because I probably wasted a lot of revenue and time trying to get all the papers right. I was like, I didn't sell nothing. Ain't nothing sold. Like I'm just spending, And so keep it simple. And the final thing is that as you grow and evolve, so will your business or whatever project, nonprofit you're leading, because that is the maturity. It's called the business model maturity model, because it's like growing up. You as a baby, you're held, and then you crawl, and then you walk, and now you're running, and so it's the same evolution in business. And so set realistic targets. I still want to be a billionaire.
Mhm.
I still look at that goal on my wall every day I walk in. It's like, oh, today is the day to go make some billions. But I know I got to move that barometer
Mhm.
$1
Yep.
at a time. And
100%.
so it doesn't mean that you can have these big goals. I want to be the CEO, CHRO. I want to be this, but it's one piece at a time. And so that would be my advice. And finally, I would say nothing beats a failure but a try.
Mm.
And so even if today, and I engage with many individuals and I still look at roles in corporate, because if there's a role that maybe I can add the greatest impact, I'm interested because I'm about to be in a people accelerator. And so if for some reason I needed to go back, I would be that much better because I had this opportunity to do this. And so I never keep anything off the table because I don't know if something will present itself. It says, hey, come be our next person to do this. And if this is the impact I can make, like, oh my gosh, like this is it.
Mm.
And so I don't leave it off the table because there are a lot of phenomenal organizations and a lot of great things. And if I can help them accelerate, that's what I want to do. in the organization.
Wow, Ticki, that's probably the best advice I've received ever.
Oh, not
It's
ever, please.
I can tell you as far as business is concerned, and the reason why I say that it's because it's not highfalutin, it's not too profound.
Yeah.
It's
Thank
like you
you.
said, it's simple, but it's simple, and
Yeah.
which makes it so easy for me to absorb and understand. And I'm sure the same goes for our audience listening right now. But wow, Tiki, this has been such a blessing to have you in the show today. I'm sure there are a lot of listeners right now who'd want to get in touch with you after this show. What's the best way to get in touch with you, Tiki?
Let's see. So first of all, thank you for giving me that feedback that this was good advice.
Absolutely.
Again, I appreciate that because if I did said one thing today that made you think about something different,
Mm,
that's all that matters.
mhm.
And that's what I want to say for the listeners. Just one thing. Find the one thing that's gonna propel you to do something different. If you're interested in getting in touch with us, it's very simple. Go to www.hrandco.com. Contact us. You fill out the form. Somebody from the team will be reaching out to you right away. www.hrandco.com. Contact us, and we would love to connect, to talk, to listen, to learn, to figure out how we can help or point you in the right direction if we don't have what you need. And so that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
again,
you.
Tiki, for being with us today. That concludes our show. Again, this show was brought to you by GapTech Global, your outsourcing partner, LinkedIn marketing, virtual assistants, and various back office services. You can learn more about their services at www.gaptechglobal. This has been your host, Chris Yap, of the podcast show From Zero to Revenue. As Stephen Covey said, all things are created twice, first in the mind, then in reality.
Oh, wow. I love that. I love that. Thanks for having me. You guys have a great holiday. Stay safe. And if there's anything that we can do, and Chris, I really appreciate you for having HR&Co on today. And again, if there's anything I've done to inspire anyone, I appreciate you just taking the advice and accelerating your own life, period.
100%. In fact, I'm super excited. I've got some like notes here that I'm going to start implementing like ASAP.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of From Zero to Revenue with your host, Chris Yap. If you've enjoyed the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate that effort. Until next time.